In 1866, Bavaria stood at a critical crossroads, like a chess player with one move to reshape the entire board. The opportunity to lead the South German Confederation presented Bavaria with a chance to create a nation that could have rivaled Prussia and altered European history forever. Instead of being absorbed into the German Empire, Bavaria could have united Württemberg, Baden and Hesse-Darmstadt into a powerful Catholic alliance. This diplomatic possibility was carefully outlined in the Peace of Prague Treaty that ended the Austro-Prussian War, with France's enthusiastic backing. The potential confederation would have created lasting geopolitical tensions across Central Europe for decades to come. The missed opportunity, Bavaria's position in 1866. The map of Europe almost changed completely based on a single decision in 1866. After the Austro-Prussian War ended, Bavaria found itself at a historical crossroads that barely gets mentioned in history books today. The 7-week conflict had completely upended the balance of power in Central Europe, and suddenly everything was up for grabs. Prussia had just defeated Austria decisively, ending centuries of Habsburg dominance in German affairs. The victorious Prussians wasted no time in establishing the North German Confederation, absorbing smaller states like Saxony and Hanover into their sphere of influence. This new political reality left the southern German states in an awkward position. They weren't part of this new Northern Alliance, but they weren't exactly independent either. Bavaria, with its 5 million inhabitants, occupied a unique geopolitical crossroads between Bismarck's ambitious Prussia to the north, the wounded Austrian Empire to the east, and Napoleon III's concerned France to the west. The Peace of Prague, which formally ended the Austro-Prussian War, contained a provision that could have changed everything. While prohibiting Prussia from incorporating the southern German states, it specifically permitted these states to form their own separate union, a diplomatic opening that Bavaria could have seized to transform itself from a regional power into the leader of a major European confederation. King Ludwig II failed to recognize this historical moment. While European power dynamics shifted around him, Ludwig was sketching castle designs and attending Wagner's operas. Even as he obsessed over Neuschwanstein's fairy tale towers, a castle that would later inspire Disney, the chance to create a significant political entity slipped away. Bavaria's economy, while no match for Prussia's industrial might, had substantial potential. The kingdom boasted thriving agricultural production, particularly in the fertile Danube Valley, and growing manufacturing centers. Combined with Württemberg's textile industry and Baden's access to Rhine trade routes, a southern confederation could have formed a viable economic unit. Religion created a natural dividing line that could have anchored a southern alliance. The predominantly Catholic South contrasted sharply with the Protestant Russia, influencing everything from education systems to political allegiances. Many southern Germans viewed Prussian culture as militaristic and foreign, at odds with their traditional way of life. This religious distinction reinforced political differences. The southern German states shared common interests in preserving their more liberal constitutional system against Prussia's authoritarian model. Their citizens feared Prussian dominance would mean increased militarism, higher taxes, and lost regional identities. Had Bavaria seized this diplomatic opening instead of drifting towards eventual absorption into the German Empire, European history might have followed a dramatically different course. A balanced Central Europe with 2 German powers, a Protestant North and a Catholic South, could have created a more stable political landscape, potentially averting the 2 devastating world wars that would later engulf the continent. Building a third German power, the alternate SGC. Imagine a Europe with 3 German powers instead of 2. Austria in the east, Prussia in the north, and a new confederation in the south. This third German force would have drastically altered everything that followed in European history. So what would this German confederation have actually looked like if Bavaria had seized its opportunity? In our alternate timeline, we will explore what would have happened if Bavaria had decided to take decisive action in late 1866. King Ludwig II, perhaps having a moment of political clarity between castle designs, could have employed the diplomatic backchannels common in 19th century statescraft. His ministers would draft proposals for a union with Württemberg, Baden, and Hesse-Darmstadt that preserved each state's autonomy while creating collective institutions for defense, trade, and foreign policy. Unlike the North German Confederation with its Prussian dominance, the Southern Alliance would function as a true federation of equals, though Bavaria would naturally take the leading role due to its size. Otto von Bismarck, the architect of Prussian expansion, would have viewed this Southern Alliance as a catastrophic impediment to his vision of German unification under Prussian leadership. His entire strategy hinged on gradually absorbing these southern German states into Prussia's orbit. The SGC would have found a powerful ally across the Rhine. France, under Napoleon III, whose foreign policy consistently aimed to contain Prussian ambitions since the 1850s, would have enthusiastically supported this buffer against further Prussian expansion. The French might have offered military guarantees, favourable trade agreements, and diplomatic support. For France, the math was simple. A divided Germany meant a safer France. The SGC would have established its parliament in Munich, creating a vibrant centre for this rebellious alliance. Its federal system would balance Bavarian leadership with representation from the other member states. The shared Catholic faith and similar political cultures would help smooth differences, likely producing a constitutional system more progressive than Prussia's authoritarian model. This confederation would control strategically important territories including the Black Forest, parts of the Rhine River, and crucial trade routes connecting Italy, Switzerland, and Central Europe. These represented real economic power and leverage in European affairs. Bavaria's agricultural wealth, combined with Baden's growing industries, would create a diverse economic base. Access to key waterways would connect the Confederation to wider European markets, supporting its independence despite initially lagging behind Prussia's industrial might. Military cooperation would prove essential. The southern states would need to integrate their separate armies into a unified force capable of defending against potential Prussian aggression by standardizing training, equipment, and command structures. The result? A predominantly Catholic, constitutionally progressive counterweight to Protestant Prussia, creating a tripolar German-speaking world. This balance might have prevented the Franco-Prussian War that historically led to German unification in 1871, fundamentally altering the entire trajectory of European history with enormous ripple effects. Ripple effects. A changed European history. What happens when you introduce a new major power into the heart of Europe? The consequences would have echoed through the decades that followed, creating ripples that might have completely transformed the world we know today. The existence of the South German Confederation would have created a dramatically different European landscape heading into the 1870s. The most immediate change would have affected the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871. This conflict cemented Prussian dominance and led to German unification, but in our alternate timeline, France would have allied with the SGC against Prussian expansion. Napoleon III, already wary of Prussian power by 1866, might have established formal defensive agreements with Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg, creating a diplomatic bulwark that made Bismarck's aggressive policies untenable. The SGC would have served as a crucial buffer between these powers, fundamentally altering the European alliance system. Without the Franco-Prussian War, German unification under Prussia would have collapsed. Bismarck's iron and blood speech would have remained rhetoric rather than becoming German policy. The German Empire of 1871 would never have materialized, sparing Europe from decades of militaristic competition. The South German Confederation would have pursued economic development over military might. While Prussia emphasized armed strength, the SGC, with its commercial centers in Frankfurt and Munich, would have built trade networks throughout Europe. This approach might have prevented the devastating arms race that helped ignite World War I, potentially saving millions of lives across the continent. A three-way balance of power among German states would have preserved regional identities. Bavarians, Württembergers, and Badeners would have maintained their cultural distinctions rather than being subsumed into a Prussian-dominated German identity. The Habsburg Empire and the SGC, both predominantly Catholic with shared cultural heritage, could have formed a natural alliance. This partnership might have stabilized Austria-Hungary, addressing the nationalist tensions that ultimately destroyed it and sparked the Balkan powder keg that ignited World War I. European colonialism would have evolved differently without German imperial ambitions. The scramble for Africa might have proceeded more gradually, with the SGC establishing trading relationships rather than seeking territorial control. Without a militaristic German empire, the catastrophic chain of events leading to both world wars might never have unfolded. No World War I meant no Versailles Treaty, no German humiliation, and possibly no rise of Nazism. The Holocaust might never have occurred, preserving millions of families whose stories were tragically cut short in our timeline. The Peace of Prague in 1866 explicitly permitted the formation of this South German Confederation. Had Bavaria shown more political courage, Europe might have integrated through peaceful economic cooperation rather than being unified through the trauma of unprecedented warfare. The suffering of the 20th century wasn't inevitable. It stemmed from specific decisions and missed opportunities in 1866 that forever altered our world. Conclusion. The South German Confederation represents one of history's great what-ifs, a plausible alternative path that could have completely changed Europe. And it wasn't some fantasy. The Peace of Prague explicitly allowed for such a confederation. Bavaria simply failed to seize the opportunity. History's path isn't inevitable. The German Empire in both world wars emerged from specific decisions and missed chances. Once past, these moments couldn't be recovered. A single diplomatic misstep in 1866 shaped our modern map, and perhaps the fate of millions. How might our world differ if Bavaria had chosen differently? The borders drawn, the lives lived, the conflicts avoided, all hinging on one pivotal moment. How much of your geopolitical education might hinge on this one pivotal moment, when you had the opportunity to either subscribe to Alt History Zone or miss out on the fantastic what-ifs that other valued members of the Alt History Zone family get to experience? The choice is yours. Stay tuned.